Are you a liberal? Take the 5-question quiz. Coming up next on Deceptions of the Ages News. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Deceptions of the Ages News. I'm your host, author Matthew Heines. Today, we're going to do something new and unique for Deceptions of the Ages News. We're going to give you a little quiz to see if maybe some of you hardline conservatives might actually be liberals. Perish the thought. But before we do that, let me encourage you to please hit that subscribe button and ring that bell. All right, now on to the quiz. All right, Deceptions of the Ages newsies, I just want to tell you about this quiz. It's a very simple one. First of all answers are true or false. We will go over the answers to the quiz at the end. So please don't talk, don't share answers, and don't let me catch you cheating. All right, question number 1. In the liberal press, there is this talk of reparations for slavery. Did Americans start slavery? True or false? Okay, question number 2. I hope you have your answer down. True or false again? All Americans owned slaves. All Americans owned slaves. Okay, got it? All right, let's go on to question number 3. Question number 3. We hear in the news all the time from these social, whatever they are, these pariahs, these snowflakes, and these socialists, that the Republicans are Nazis. So, question number 3 is true or false? Republicans are Nazis. Okay, question number 4. Are you ready? Question number 4. The Republicans always get us into wars. The Republicans always get us into wars. True or false? Got it? Number 5, all these liberals are talking about open borders. So let's just find out. True or false? The United States of America is the only country in the world who wants to limit immigration. True or false? The United States is the only country in the world who wants to limit or limits immigration. True or false? All right, everybody, got your answers ready? Well, let's just go ahead and check our answers and see if you are either a liberal or a conservative. All right, question number 1 was, Americans are responsible for slavery. Answer, false. Americans are not actually responsible for slavery. Slavery has been around for a long time. Now, in order for you to understand just how long it's been around, I am just going to quote from my book, Deceptions of the Ages, Mormons, Freemasons, and Extraterrestrials, so that we understand that Americans did not actually start slavery. We all have to go all the way back to Greek and Rome, and way beyond them even, but we'll just start with Greek and Rome. In Greek and later Roman society, there was an abundance of slaves. In fact, most people have the erroneous notion that Americans were the only country to practice slavery. The fact is, the idea that a person could be bought and sold as property was and has been a common practice in every country on earth from the beginning of recorded history to this day. This is very important. The European colonists in the Americas who owned slaves initially bought them from Arabs and Muslims who raided along the African coasts for slaves for their own markets. So if you did not get that, slavery actually began, and I know this because I did my senior thesis on Caribbean slavery. And slavery actually started because Muslim traders from Arabia were going up and down the coast raiding for their own African slaves, and they were trading into the Azores. When the Europeans got into the Americans, they could not enslave the natives because the natives wouldn't work. They would rather die than work for these people. So they brought in African slaves who were much more hardy and were able to survive in the harsh climates, and so they were involved in the production of intensive crops, which we're going to talk about in a second. So no, false. Americans by no means invented slavery. Okay, let's go to question number 2, and question number 2 was, all Americans own slaves. All Americans own slaves. Well, there's two things that we need to look at first of all. All Americans were not actually in America until probably after the Civil War. The country was sparsely populated before the Civil War, and massive immigration did not begin until the 1860s or 1870s and 1880s and 1890s. So it would have not been possible if you're not here to own slaves, no matter what the color of your skin. Other thing that people don't understand is, as I said in the answer to question number 1, slavery mostly involved the cultivation of what is called labor-intensive crops: cotton, tobacco, sugar. These required long hours under hot sun, and then you had to harvest, and et cetera, et cetera. So when we think of slavery, what we're talking about is they're almost like drug lords. These people who are growing sugar, tobacco, and cotton, they have these massive operations. They control local economies and they control national policy. But there are a very, very few of them. So you might ask yourself, well, what about the Civil War? The Civil War was to keep those people able to hold on to their free labor, and it was also in order to keep the South from seceding from the Union and making a separate country. But that could be another question a liberal would get wrong, so I don't want to go too far into it. On to question number 3. Okay, question number 3. Republicans are Nazis. True or false? Answer is false. Yes, we hear the liberals and these uneducated snowflakes comparing the Nazis to the Republicans to Nazis, but the actual fact of the matter is, had they paid attention in their non-existent geography or world history class, and who knows what they're lying to these people, and what are they doing with this time? These kids are supposed to be learning this stuff. The Nazis were National Socialists, okay? National Socialists. So these people who call Republicans Nazis, Republicans who want a smaller government, Republicans who don't think the government can solve all of our problems, well, these are somehow compared to the Nazis who think that the government should control, and the government and the very wealthy should control everything. So when you're talking about Nazis, these Democrats and these liberals, they really just need to look at a history book or check in the mirror. But Republicans are not Nazis. And the only argument that they have against that statement is the Bushes. Fact, yes, Prescott Bush worked for the Harrimans. Harrimans were heavily involved in the Nazis, and Prescott Bush was involved in protecting their fortune in offshore accounts during World War II. After the war, Tyson Crupps and other corporations in Germany had their fortunes intact, which isn't a bad deal considering they had all that free labor to use. Okay, even more slavery. So, are the Republicans Nazis? No. Are the Bushes Nazis? Well, you can't even call them Nazis because they're connected to the Rothschild banking system. So that is a fine call, but to say the Republicans are Nazis when we find out how much the CIA and the liberals have control of the government, well, then it's pretty obvious who the Nazis really are. And remember, in case you forgot, Nazi means National Socialist, but in German. Number 4, the Republicans start wars. The fact of the matter is, the Republicans have not started a war since the Bushes got into power. And of course, as we just said, that's part of that whole Rothschild banking scheme. Before the Bushes, the Democrats got elected saying they would keep us out of World War I, got us right into it. The Democrats got us into World War II after saying they would keep us out of it. The Democrats got us into Korea. The Democrats got us into Vietnam. And it wasn't until the Rothschilds got their hooks in us and the banking system in the 80s and Reagan and the Bushes that this Nazification, Clinton conglomerate of people who are not Republicans, but part of this cabal of this New World Order, that's when they took over. So they were not Republicans. They were part of the cabal, which involves the Democrats as well. So, do Republicans get us into war? Not historical. That's the Democrats. Answer, false. All right, and our last question was, the United States is the only country in the world that wants to limit or stop immigration. The United States of America is the only country in the world that wants to limit or stop immigration. This is an absolute lie. It is completely false. If you look at China, China does not allow people to immigrate into their country. So why is the United States supposed to? The Muslim countries do not allow Christians to immigrate to their countries. So why does the United States have to allow Muslims? Why isn't there a reciprocal agreement? The Japanese, they do not allow people to immigrate to Japan. And on African countries, South Africa, they all have limitations based on religion, culture, and race, okay? So you have these crazy nutcase liberals who want to bring every country over here who will not allow Caucasians, white people, or anybody else for that matter to immigrate to their countries. Yet these liberals turn around and call us racist. So is the United States the only country in the world that does not or that frowns on or wants to limit immigration? Absolutely false. Other countries in the world and the ones that we're supposed to be letting them into our countries are the worst ones for not allowing immigration. Anything wrong with that? All right, so let's go over our results very quickly and determine whether or not you are a liberal, and if you are, to what extent. Okay, if you missed one answer, you are either a Republican, a history buff, or you didn't go to school in the United States. If you missed two, then you're probably under 30 or you watch more CNN than you should. If you missed three or more, you're probably a left-leaning liberal or you just don't care. If you missed four, you are a left-leaning liberal and you probably didn't know one of the answers, so you just guessed and you got it wrong anyway. Now, if you missed 5 of these questions, you are one of 2 types of people. You are either a wealthy liberal driving around with a Bernie Sanders or Hillary Clinton bumper sticker on your gas-guzzling SUV, or you are somebody that these people imported here to vote for them, whether you're here legally or not. So how are your results? If you want to discuss your answers, if you have any feedback, go ahead and leave your responses in the comments below. If you'd like to see more quizzes like this, I'd sure like to give you more. Now, I just want you guys to remember that these are very hard times, and as Americans, we got to stick together. So, until next time, this is Deception to the Ages News, and we'll see you next time.